Wake up, Adam, they are getting close.
All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. China's loans pushing world's poorest countries to the brink of collapse. This is, of course, something many people have seen for a very long time in the making. But, of course, they're high-interest loans, and countries that really shouldn't have taken them in the first place are getting screwed. It says a dozen poor countries are facing economic instability and even under collapse under the weight of hundreds of billions of dollars in foreign loans, much of them for the world's biggest and most unforgiving government lender, China. An Associated Press analysis of a dozen countries most indebted to China, including Pakistan, Kenya, Zambia, Laos, and Mongolia, found paying back that debt is consuming an ever greater amount of the tax revenue. Consuming pretty much everything they could get, needed to keep schools open, provide electricity, and pay for food and fuel. And it's draining foreign currency reserves these countries use to pay interest on these loans, leaving some with just months before the money is gone. Behind the scenes, China's reluctance to forgive debt and its extreme secrecy about how much money it has loaned and on what terms, which has kept the other major lenders from stepping in to help. On top of that is the recent discovery that borrowers have been required to put cash in hidden escrow accounts that push China to the front of the line for creditors to be paid. So essentially, part of their agreement is that they get paid back first. They sound like loan sharks on a country scale, basically the mob of the world. Countries in AP analysis had as much as 50% of their foreign loans from China, and most were devoting more than a third of government revenue to paying off foreign debt. It said that two of them, Zambia and Sri Lanka, have already gone into default, unable to make even interest payments on loans financing the construction of ports, mines, and power plants. Funny that they gave them loans for ports, mines, and power plants. That's major infrastructure, and essentially, when they default, they'll either have to pay it off or give them control of it in some way. This is very, very bad, and it's part of China's world domination takeover that I have been watching for years, and many of you are just finding out about, and many of my audience are, of course, already knowing about. So we'll talk about this and much, much more on today's episode of Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. As always, a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document is going to be available over on our website. When you go to today's thumbnail, you will see that you have every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to share here today is all archived over on our website. That way you have a source for everything we tell you. If it is opinion, we try to make sure and clarify so. Otherwise, you have a backed up source, so you can then share that out with folks if you do want to get the word out on it. There's going to be a ton of great stuff today, and we are doing calls today. Today, we are taking calls at 224400MARF, and we definitely encourage you to share this show with others. If they like interesting people and interesting calls, then they will like this show. So make sure to bring them in. The Foogle fam always needs to get bigger. The Marfia needs to grow. So thank you guys for doing so. Make sure to share this out, and, obviously let me know if you have problems sharing it on any different social platforms. I'd love to hear which ones are not letting it be shared. But again, let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So first off, just real quick, I do want to say thank you to Jarut. It looks like Jarut JT550. Thank you for joining the fam and getting a Marfia badge. Nana of Montana, thank you. Arizona Raven, thank you for joining the Foogle fam. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for grabbing that Marfia badge. And then Bible Talk 777, able-bodied, and 5150 Prepper, Mama of 6, and Survival Living just grabbed badges. And you guys are all going to be the first month, so you will have the top badge. That is pretty awesome. All right, and then going back to China, I have done a lot of research on a lot of the different key strategies that China is doing to take over the world. When I say take over the world, I mean it. I'm not being facetious or exaggerating. They are giving loans to countries all over the world, and they're essentially being loan sharks about it. Now, Dex, before we open up the phones at 224400MARF, I did want to bring you in. I have a question, and I guess my question is, why do countries take these loans? Is there always just this huge carrot in front of them that they just have to take it? Or they're basically desperate and they get the infrastructure built, but then they're in debt and somebody else controls it?
Well, I got to believe it's a little bit of both, a little bit of desperation and a lot of hopium, sort of thinking that everything will just be better right around the corner. And unfortunately, I'm sure what happened is a lot of these folks did this before the recent changes in the global economy over the last year and a half, where hyperinflation, or in some cases just regular inflation, hit a lot of people, but mostly their own monetary values in comparison to the dollar that tanked and had problems. So I think a lot of that just compounded the problem, like a series of events that happened right at the right time to make it this bad. But it doesn't mean that even if that didn't happen, they were probably still in a bad shape and they were taking these bad deals. And I'm sure that the politicians that are doing it are probably getting their skids greased, so to speak, from Xi and others to do these deals. So yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Every one of them seems to be completely upside down and in debt with infrastructure, major infrastructure components, and they're out of money. They can't do anything. They can't even pay the interest bill, let alone the entire debt back.
Well, and it says countries like Sri Lanka defaulted a year ago. 500,000 industrial jobs vanished, and inflation has pierced 50%. What is our inflation at? Isn't it at like 8% or something crazy? I mean, it's really high for us, and this is at 50%. That's huge. It's not Venezuela huge, but again, 50%. This is killing countries. Now, I bet you they also get kickbacks. Whoever approved this, they have, and again, they're doing this in offshores, like escrows accounts. This is like super secretive. This is super shady. It's super like, let me put 50 on my illegal bookie in 50 different places. Like, this is super shady. And it's on top of a huge list of things that China is doing that is probably not great. Meanwhile, since they do control so much media and so much, they have so much power in different places, they will have media do these stories and by the way, they pay for these stories. We know that multiple large publications have been busted basically doing op-eds that make them look good or somewhat debunk things that are absolutely true. So it's like you don't know really what to believe, but you can most of the time you can see what's happening. It's just it is hidden, but it's obvious. It's right out in the front of everybody. It's really bad because many people are not worried about this, but they don't realize that this is giving them the power to build the largest militaries in the world and to do many things that will soon take over the world. If nothing is done right now, if there is not more done than is what is already being done by a few select great people, then this country will start having the yuan take over the dollar. It's in slow-mo right now, and it will speed up as time goes on. So I hope everybody pays attention to it. And white worms rain from the sky, pummeling Indian town in disturbing video. So I actually have the Twitter video of this, and this is really nuts. So first of all, you could say there's a lot of things that are happening biblically. I don't know if there was ever worms in the Bible. I believe it was flies or larvae, or it was flies, frogs, locusts, everything else. But I don't remember worms. But let me just show you real quick. This is a video from Chhapra district. You can see them jumping and flipping. And these are raining out of the sky. Now, you can literally see them in the video. If you want to go check out that video, you can over at marfooglenews.com. The link for the original on Twitter is there. Saw a couple of comments on saying, oh, I think this is fake. So their explanation for this is that a storm essentially picked up these worms from somewhere, and they got way up in the atmosphere, and then they essentially rained down. This is not the first time this has happened. I think it's wild every time. I'm like, are you serious? Like, storm, they say they have a legitimate thing for it scientifically it's basically like, if you could imagine and I don't know if it's tornadoes, it's more of like hurricanes and things like this. It will suck up everything, and then it will drop it back down. They have had, Dex, how many of these have we covered lately? We've covered, didn't we have fish falling out of the sky too? Fish, frogs.
Yes. We've covered a few different things that have come out of the sky, and they're typically, it's just some form of cyclone that sucks it up into the atmosphere and then brings it down into another location. So, they don't know the explanation on this one. They haven't discovered it yet, if they will, but even in the other ones, there's a lot of speculation as to where it came from, especially the fish was coming from water. Obviously, it's not like they grow in the sky.
So instead of Sharknado, it's white worm NATO. They say it's disturbing. I just think it's crazy. And remember, you can call in at 224-400-MARF. The phones are open now, so if you do want to get in, you would want to get in now. And thanks to all the mods. Make sure to go check them out on marfooglenews.com/friends. Make sure to let people know the phone number and how to get in. I know you guys always do anyways. And then Awakened Believer, thank you, Liz Potter. Robert Brooks, I believe I missed you yesterday. Thank you so much for the super chat. And then thank you, Ray the Way. Emily Hillard, conservative anarchist. Kim Solomon. We had Travel Dan yesterday. Thank you so much for your support this week. And Renee Alera, thank you so much as well. Thank you for the support for our independent channel here. Thank you. And then we have California officials trying to track down missing 30-ton shipment of explosive chemicals. So, and I feel like it was different earlier, like it was 60 tons or something like that.
60,000 pounds or 30 tons.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, that makes sense. 2,000 pounds per ton. This is ammonium nitrate, a chemical used as both fertilizer and a component in explosives, went missing as it was shipped by rail from Wyoming to California last month, prompting 4 separate investigations. So first of all, this is where people really need to wake up. There's going to be a big event, and I'm only saying that because not only are we overdue, we have seen all of the telegraph things out there. We've seen all the drills. How, with this much ammonium nitrate, this wasn't an accident. It's not like they're jacking this to steal it on the streets or something, or to sell it on the streets. They are taking this for something. Now, to have 60,000 pounds of this gone is extremely alarming. And this isn't even the most alarming thing tonight. Like, this people really should pay attention to. There's been some things that have gone missing before that have caused alarm, but none is quite as kind of obvious as this. Some of the things had maybe a potential to be dangerous. This is straight up a chemical that is used, in explosives. It says a rail car loaded with 30 tons of the chemical left Cheyenne, Wyoming on April 12th. The car was found to be empty after it arrived 2 weeks later at a rail stop in the Mojave Desert, according to a short incident report from the explosives firm that made the shipment. The company, Dyno Nobel, made the report May 10th to the Federal National Response Center, or NRC. The report also appeared last week in the NRC database of California. Incidents managed by the State Office of Emergency Services last Wednesday. Ammonium nitrate is commonly used as fertilizer. It also is an ingredient in high explosives and was used in the homemade boom boom detonated in the 1995 attack on the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. Now, I wonder if we look up how big and how much ammonium nitrate was used in that, how much it would be. In fact, Dex, that's something you might want to do on like a DuckDuckGo and on a VPN. But if anybody has the balls to search that, go ahead. I wonder. I'm curious. Like, how much? What kind of boom boom could this make? Dyno Nobel says it believes the material transported the pellet form in a covered hopper car similar to those used to ship coal. Fell from the car on the way to a rail siding called Saltdale, about 30 miles from a town in Mojave in eastern Kern County. The rail car was sealed when it left Cheyenne facility, and the seals were still intact when it arrived in Saltdale. The initial assessment is that a leak through the bottom gate on the rail car may have developed in transit, the company said. It said a railroad administration representative, though, says the investigation points to one of the hopper car gates not being properly closed. So, and if I'm reading this right, it says that there were seals in place and they were still there. This sounds shady as hell. They probably do checks on these kind of things, at multiple stops. At some point, it must have to, right? I mean, there's got to be some sort of regulation behind it. Dyno Nobel says the trip lasted 2 weeks and included multiple stops. The company says it had limited control over the rail car as Union Pacific moved it through the country. It says the rail car is being transported back to Wyoming for inspection and says it hopes to understand how the shipment was lost and will work to prevent something similar happening again. Now, I have a somewhat of a prediction, and I hope I bet it might not happen. But what if they say that they found it? They have motive to say they found it because this is so alarming. They don't want people to panic when this much stuff goes missing. I don't think this is so they can go, put it on their farm. This looks like it was organized and it was something that was planned, possibly even an inside thing. How did they get this off when nobody noticed for 2 weeks? I don't know. I guess maybe it's not that hard. Maybe you can take stuff off a rail car and just like the straight up old movie. Maybe they rolled up on the side with horses and offloaded it into a some sort of carriage. Who knows? But it's something people really need to watch. Mind you, there's a lot of different threats against our country and a whole lot of people that have a percentage of sleeper cells just got through our border just now. So definitely something to be paying attention to. All right, and then the U.S. power grid facing elevated risk of shortages this summer amid green energy push. So It says the U.S. power grid is facing an elevated risk of shortages in the coming summer months amid a nationwide push to replace fossil fuel generation with green alternatives, according to the nation's top grid watchdog. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation, or NERC, a nonprofit organization that regularly monitors the grid and makes periodic recommendations to boost reliability, published its annual summer reliability assessment. It says that warning that vast majority of the U.S. grid, excluding much of the East Coast, may have insufficient reserves during high demand periods. Remember, we're also heading into a El Nino and a possible fire year where we're going to have insane weather. They're already saying it's going to be the hottest year on record. The electric industry continues to face many of the challenges of the rapidly changing resource mix. John Mora, NERC's Director of Reliability Assessment and Performance Analysis, told reporters on a media call on Wednesday. It says the elevated risk profiles that we're seeing are driven by a combination of conventional generation retirements seen over the past couple of years, a substantial increase in forecasted peak demand, and new loads coming. It says we are electrifying more than we have ever had in the past, he continued. The NERC report identified 9 regional grids, which include New England. Every state west of Ohio and Ontario, Canada, are facing elevated power outage risks during the 2023 summer. The analysis specifically warned that much of the risk is driven by greater reliance on renewable energy sources, which are dependent on favorable weather and may be unreliable during peak conditions. We saw what happened, of course, to Texas. We've seen a whole lot of crazy events happen already in just the last couple of years since they started doing this. Essentially, they're switching over to these things. They're coming down on one side without having it replaced yet. And what ends up happening is there's a ton of power going on these, and they end up getting fried, or they don't have enough power to actually power their areas. This is a very clear warning. This is something that I don't think many people are going to debate. If you are in all of these West Coast and Midwest in all of these states, then you need to have a basic plan. You need to have prep, and you also need to have a plan worked out if you lose your power. This is something that does happen, and it's happened almost every year. It's kind of like, if you don't expect this to happen, then you're really in denial. Now, it's not guaranteed. We don't know exactly where this thing is going to hit, but at the same time, there's places that have had regular blackouts. There's places in California that just keep getting blackouts. Obviously, every year for 3 years, besides last year, I don't think it was so bad last year, they had rolling blackouts, where at sometimes people were going 9 days without power in California. That's absolutely nuts. I think that's just wild that happens, in modern society in general. The fact people had to literally go without power for 9 days involuntarily. All right, and then let's pop open the chat. We're about to go to the first caller, and remember, you can call in at 224400-MARV. Let's see here. And I'm going to open up the screener, see what we have so far. I highly encourage, if you are a new caller or first-time caller, give us a call tonight. We have Stephanie Munoz, a first-time caller, calling in. And they're going to be reporting on the James. World News reports today had a stroke after a weird event. Oh, that is very unfortunate to hear. All right, so we're going to get Stephanie Munoz on the phone, and she's got, it doesn't sound like some happy news. Before we go over to her, I want to remind you guys, if you want to get yourself backup power, we've given you an option for years now. This is one of the best. Energy makes the best solar generators on the market, in my opinion, and they're also the most modular. They're edible. You can actually edit these to your liking. You can. They work like Legos. You can actually stack different mods that change the overall performance. You can turn it into a UPS system. You can turn it into a supercharged system. You can actually triple the amount of panels that you want. So basically, you can get a basic Flex 1500, or you can pimp it out to be a house unit with UPS and supercharge. And basically, this could be handling all of your needs. Solar are silent, so in an SHTF situation, they will be quiet, and you will be able to go stealth. And they don't take $5 a gallon gas. And, of course, you get unlimited power from the sun as long as you have solar panels and your generator. It's a really, really great option, and it will definitely save some lives in the future. I'm sure most of you absolutely want one of these. It's about affording it. If you do try to look at this, I would look at it as a long-term investment, and if you are going to get something like this, you get what you pay for. If you get one of the really knockoff versions of these, they could last or they won't. The thing is if SHTF does happen, you don't want something like this to break down. It's kind of important. All right, and then let's go to Stephanie Munoz. I guess we're going to get some bad news here. Stephanie, are you there?
Yes, hi Adam, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. What's happening?
First, I just want to let you know my name is Munoz, like the moon and Yos.
Well, after years of saying it wrong, thank you for correcting me. Stephanie Munoz.
Well, this is the first time I actually talked to you, so that's okay.
That's awesome. Well, well, thank you. And so what
yeah,
happened?
I do have some bad news.
And what happened, Stephanie?
So James Kaufman, that has the channel World News Report Today. He reports on a lot of different things, and I think he's been a caller on the show before. I think I heard him on the show before. He had a stroke yesterday after a very strange event. So he posted a video on his channel about strange orbs coming into his kitchen in the middle of the night, and then a weird flash of light happened in his bedroom. And somehow, I guess his cameras caught it. And he, on his channel, he posted about it and was trying to find out if people had any ideas why that would happen. And then I guess he was thinking he might have been abducted by aliens or something. He was just kind of kidding around about it on the video, but it was weird, like a very strange video. So if people want to see, it's like a less than 3-minute video, but it happened like at 3 a.m. There was this very bright flash of light that came into his bedroom. And then the next day, yesterday, he had a massive stroke, and he had surgery today, but he said it did not go well. He's lost sight in his left eye. There was a blood clot behind his eye, just out of the blue. Had a stroke. They removed the blood clot, but now he's blind in one eye, and he has to get more surgery, he said, coming up soon. So I would just like for people to pray for him. He's feeling really down, and this was out of the blue, so he's just really not doing well.
I was looking to see if there was any kind of, I've never heard of, just hypothetically. So if he's joking about like, oh, I almost think I got abducted or something. There's the first thing that popped up under UFO stroke, and it says 10 people connected to UFOs who met very suspicious ends. And the first line is, he officially suffered a sudden fatal stroke at a meeting with the Society of Scientific Exploration. That was a gentleman who I believe shared some sort of like view of things in a video of something, or had some sort of study or something. I'll have to read more into it, but it looks like there's several on this page of people that had a sudden stroke of some sort after sharing something. So that is kind of weird.
No.
But I don't know. I haven't seen his video, if he's just joking about it since he shared that video. So you're saying he is completely blind out of one of his eyes, or is that something is that
his
temporary?
Left eye, he said I'm sorry?
Is that something that he said was temporary, or they don't, or he doesn't know?
Well, it just happened today, so maybe, I'm praying that it's temporary, because today he is blind out of his left eye, and he said he can't speak either. So I don't know if that's because he hasn't completely recovered from the surgery, or if he is going to be blind. But he did say he has to have more surgery. I don't know what's going on with that, but it sounds very serious.
Well, you're obviously the just the messenger. That's really horrible news, but I guess the positive thing out of this is now that people know, not only can they go and pray for him, but they can also go and see his channel and go check him out, and of course say some positive things, because I know that when you're sick or you're down and out, it really does help. I know that when I've been super, super sick or in the hospital and I read 1,000 comments praying for me, I will say it makes a huge difference. So, well, Stephanie, thank you for thinking about somebody else and getting the word out there about James's stroke. That's really horrible.
Yes, I did want the Fugel fam to pray and just believe that he recovers. So, but he's feeling very down and maybe is losing his faith a little bit, or maybe a lot, and that's a bad thing, because if something bad happens and you really don't continue to believe God, if you did before, it's not God's fault, right? So I'm really concerned that his mindset is not going to help him. So if people can go and maybe leave him a good positive comment as well, and let him know that God is still pulling for him and certainly hasn't given up on him, and the prayers are appreciated. Thank y'all.
Well, Stephanie, my prayers are with him. I'm going to pray for him, and again, I'm sure there's going to be a whole list of folks that are going to join me. Thank you, Stephanie Munoz. And I apologize for saying your name wrong for, 4 years or something? So I'm glad I know now.
It's okay. It's Munoz.
Munoz.
It's Munoz.
Okay. Well,
Munoz.
That's easier to rhyme in the shoutro, too. I think I've been saying Munoz or
That's true.
Monos.
Yeah, things that rhyme with moon.
Moon, yes. Soon, yo. Moon, yo. Okay. And now I'll remember it. Well, thank you, Stephanie, and I appreciate the call. And don't be a stranger, okay?
Oh, of course not. Thank you. God bless.
All right, we'll see you back in chat. That was Stephanie Munoz. What a pretty name. And James Kaufman has called into our show. He's been a caller on our show, and I'm very sorry to hear that. James, I hope you recover really fast. And I'm praying for you. In Jesus' name, amen. So weird, as we talked about that, my eyelid started like twitching. Have you ever had that where either one of your muscles or something will do like the vibration, the jiggle? Oh, that's the most. I've only started having it in my 30s. Never had things. Ever since I turned 33 or something, it's like your body just starts falling apart. And I know some of you are in your 60s and 70s are like, oh, you don't even know. But it was like when you're a kid, they tell you start falling apart as you get older. And you just don't understand it. Also, when you were a kid and you had all of this energy, they used to say, I wish you had your energy. Now I understand it. We all understand it. We understand why it's such a big deal. Like, if I had the energy I did when I was a kid, you could do so much. If adults had the same kind of energy as like an 8-year-old, our world would be evolved. We would literally be in a type 1 civilization traveling to stars far and few between. But unfortunately, we're not. So, my goodness. All right. And Florida passes bill to protect billionaires like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos if their mega rockets take the lives or injure people. Florida has signed a bill protecting the billionaire owners of space companies against civil lawsuits in case of the death or injury of a passenger or a crew member. Passengers will have to sign a waiver stating that they understand the risks of spaceflight before boarding a spaceship. The bill states, it says, under Florida law, there is no liability for an injury or death to a participant or crew in a spaceflight activity, provided by a spaceflight entity such as injury or death results from the inherent risks of spaceflight activity. It says for private sector companies like Elon Musk, SpaceX, and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, the bill, quote, has the potential to limit the cost of litigation to businesses engaging in spaceflight activities. I wonder if this is a setup for more to come, for bigger infrastructure to be set up on something like this. It makes me wonder, for sure. And then, by the way, thank you, Be Real Beast. I see you just popped in there. Thank you for the super chat, Be Real Beast. I appreciate you. Off the Wall Prepping, back-to-back super chat says, thanks, Marv, for you do the truth, and keep bringing the truth, Marv. Thanks. Carol, thank you. Jacoby Davis, thank you. I appreciate you as well. And Dillinger, thank you so much for subscribing. And Danzig, 44, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Thank you. I just saw you pop that on there right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And this is even more alarming. So check this out. Oh, and by the way, this also could be because maybe something's about to change. It says astronauts are no longer government astronauts. These are commercial crew, said Republican Representative Taylor Sarus at a March 9th hearing. The new bill states that spaceflight remains an extraordinarily dangerous condition, and people should take responsibility for the risks before boarding the rocket. So, and is this also the setup for regular people to buy tickets? And if something happens, if they lose their lives on this thing, it's like it's at your own risk. It's pretty trippy to think about. And then this is something I'm going to just tell you straight up. Most of us, when we see this, we know exactly what to watch out for. We had a talk about it yesterday about how we saw all of the drills, all of the tabletop exercises that happened before 2019. And we told you in the same fashion. Get prepared for this kind of event, whether it be a nuclear event or whether it be a very serious event that goes down. I have told you guys that Houston, in Texas, and New York City have been the hot spots. There's the most warnings, the most information, most actual evidence that something is either planned to go down there, that is threatened to go down there, or something else. Now, Austin. Houston just did nuke drills there. By the way, these nuclear type drills, these don't happen. These haven't happened for decades because of how we have looked at the whole scenario. But New York has done them, and now Houston, and now Austin is hosting disaster simulations to train for future emergencies and demics. Mind you, in New York, they've actually done drills like releasing a substance into the subway, a real substance on purpose, to then go, and they close down the whole subway. They go to multiple exits, and they essentially take tests of how well the stuff went through the subways. That creeps me out, because if you are on any level of like saying, oh, I don't exactly trust that maybe somebody else wouldn't be doing that, it's a creepy thing to think about. Them testing aerosols going through the subways and seeing how far it could get. Practice makes perfect. But it says the city of Austin joined regional leaders, public health officials, and hospital professionals to host a disaster simulation Monday in an effort to build up emergency responses to pandemics and natural disasters. The simulation follows the CV and takeaways government officials and health organizations made regarding the emergency responses to the release. So again, this is a and does it say? Yes. Okay. So it says when that happened. I believe it happened on Monday, and nobody really talked about it. Participants trained on a simulation game that offered them the opportunity to explore different aspects that lead to the selection of a given disaster, their relevant importance, which are indicators for the need for change in such a structure. It says the simulation tested emergency responses across a host of threats, hazard emergencies, demics, and disasters. Monday's threat scenario was tailored around a potential demic threat and focused an emergency response in the wider area of the city of Austin and the capital area Trauma Regional Advisory Council, or CATRAC region. It says the Center for Advanced Preparedness and Threat Response Simulation put on Monday's event. Now, when you see, this isn't just one, this is multiple in the last year. They are pumping up these drills. These drills are usually done on the most likely. They don't just do a million of these, and especially depending on what is actually focused on. This one is actually due on this, but apparently they take the same thing and they do multiple different outcomes. Now, I have been told by folks that have actually participated in this about 15 years ago that you actually have several of these, because a lot of the times you'll try to do one that really is the probable one, and you'll do a few others. So for the public, it just looks like you're doing 3 or 4 tests of different things, and nobody really worries about it. If you do a very so say out of 4, they do one for an earthquake, do one for a hurricane, and then they do one for a very specific event, like someone brings a package in from this entrance to that entrance. People go, why is it so specific? Why are they actually, doing it such a specific way? That's maybe because they have information on what may happen or is going to happen. And if you look at a drill like that, you start asking a lot of questions. So my personal opinion and my personal advice for anybody in Texas in general is that you keep your heads on a swivel. And I don't think any of you would take offense to that. Texans are some of the toughest mofos out there, and I know you guys are very, very smart. So keep your heads on a swivel and have prep. I know that most of you do. In fact, you're better off than most of the country with you have your own grid, you have your own gold, you have all sorts of things, the largest freeways if you do have a disaster. So you guys are set up in a lot of ways. I just hope that you are mentally and spiritually prepared for any kind of event. That also means paying attention to what is around you. Dex, go ahead.
I was just going to say, given the state of the things happening down at the border there, how much of a risk there may be to events like this kicking off in Texas. And so yet another reason, not only why they drilled for this, but another reason to be vigilant down and pay attention, like you said, head on a swivel, because of what's happening right now.
Now, remember, they just did a tabletop exercise for the 2025 variant, and it's straight out of Songbird. It affects your brain. It has a much worse rate, all of that. And now we just got people from almost every country in the world that just mobbed in, and it was so overwhelming that a ton of people slipped through the cracks. Now, say if they sent 100 of these crazy sleeper cells that are meant to do something, anything, even if 10 of them got through, boom, they've got their mission accomplished. When you have an event like this, any adversary is going to use that to their advantage. If they want to get their sleeper cells in, this is the best event ever. When Title 42 ended, this was a guaranteed. This was utilized. There's no way it wasn't. There's absolutely no way they said, oh, yeah, well, they will never let a good disaster go to waste. And that also is true for our adversaries. If we have a disaster, they will take advantage of it. And mind you, if you track it back, the disaster was probably triggered by one of them in the first place. So, a secretive annual meeting attended by the world's elite has disruptive AI top of the agenda. Now, I'm going to pop over for a second. Now, Dex, I know that I don't know if you can get off of the phone for a second here. I think it looks like you're in between. I wanted to have you pop in on this because this is quite wild, and you had some pretty good things to say before the show about this. And I know it might take you a second. If you're screening, I can come back to you after.
Hey, I'm here, Adam. Yeah, so this is the burger meeting, and I'm sure everyone here knows what I'm talking about when I say that. But front and center on their agenda is AI, and a couple of the key people that are going to be there, obviously from Microsoft and Eric from the OOG, but also Sam Altman from OpenAI is going to be attending, and unlikely speaking. We don't know what goes on because these are very secretive. This is not an open forum. This is not something that really gets reported on, unlike some of the insight we got out of, say, Davos as another one that's sort of in that same realm. But this meeting is coming up. I think the topics on the agenda for the 2023 meeting are AI. It's the number one. Banking, which is number two. Obviously, we can see that those are two big issues, even amongst the conversations that we have. And China's number three, energy transition, Europe, fiscal challenges, India, industrial policy and trade, NATO, Russia, transnational threats, Ukraine, and then U.S. leadership is the bottom of the agenda. So, that's interesting that the U.S. leadership is actually on the agenda for these people that are meeting, as if they have some sort of control or say so in the leadership of our country. And maybe they do, because we don't really know what happens in this meeting. It's a very secretive meeting of a bunch of elite people. And we've talked about it. This is the early phase. We'll probably get more stories about it as we get closer. There'll be other predictions and stuff will come out, or leaks or things like that, and we'll keep watching it. But definitely something to pay attention to.
Now, and I'm pretty sure that we are changed. Luke, he ended up, was it this one? And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the builder and MERS that he ended up catching at an airport. And they had the meeting in an area where every single person who came in had to go through this one airport. Even if they had private jets, they had to go through this one. And it was a public airport, so he was able to go in there, and it was like corralling all of these guests and all of these very important elites into one area. So he got to videotape all of them and ask them questions, and they couldn't do anything about it because they had to go past him to get to the meeting. Now, I think they took him out of there. The next year, they completely changed it because they did not want people being seen going into this thing. There were people that were not on the list. There were people that were there that were like, whoa. And there were people that it was like, why is that guy going? That's shady as heck, especially with the events that happened a few years ago. It was weird. There was so much weird. And the next year, they made it so secure. They made the place that they were have its own airline or airway runway, so they could come in. Nobody could get in, and it's been super secretive. This was the Bilderberg, right? That was the one that he was at. Either way, there's Davos, there's the Grove, there's all sorts of these meetings, right? And what is freaky is the last few years, at least, they have put out the public list. And if you go back in time and you look at the 2018, 2017, 2019, 2018, on their website, they will put their list of agenda. And it's always things like the most important things in the world. And it's almost like it's a joke to them, like, I just put it there. Put U.S. leadership there. Many people believe this is where it's decided. Those subjects, that's where it's decided, or that's where it's planned, or that's what's actually doing those things. Not like, oh, we're going to talk about it. It's a concern. Like if AI is at the top of the agenda, watch out, AI is coming. I bet you that means AI is really going to charge forward then. And after AI charges forward in just the next couple years, we already see it coming. If there's this many people predicting it, then just buckle up, because, as Jacob Israel would say, because guess what? What Dex and I have been talking about, digital ID, that's going to be suggested very soon here. Guarantee it. where every human being on the internet has some sort of digital signature for you to even access it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Hey, Foogle fam, thank you again for popping in. Looks like we have Karen Sakona, Hunger Games. And I think that's done at the Grove. I never listened to audiobook. Ian DeBow. AI Crisis, Uma Morch, what is happening? We have Skynet scenario coming to real life soon. Tailcorn Survival. You know that there is a real Skynet, right? It's like the chip that controls the Internet of Things or something like that. It's like when we all saw it, it was named Skynet. Everybody more than rolled their eyes. People rolled over in their graves. EU just announced the digital wallet volunteer, of course. The forgiven wretch. This is Ilea. Hey, this is a Hillary emoji. Traders are running the show. I agree, Linda. Yeah, the digital wallet and then the limits and the tracking and tracing in Europe they're already doing on any kind of cash, cash stuff going on. So, by the way, this is a list of all of the folks going, and you can access this on our website, and you can get a direct link to it. But there's some huge people going. This is like, presidents, CEOs, almost everyone is a major player. I don't think there's any if they're not a major player, CEO, prime minister, president, if they're not, then those are the ones you got to look at, because it's like, why are they there? They're college professors, they're people in charge. This is the cultural agenda right here. You can pretty much pick out any one of them and go, throw a dart at one and go, oh, look at that. They're part of the grand old narrative. So say like professor of economics, right? This guy, I won't say his name. Professor of economics. What do you want to bet? That he has probably made a headline or two for being super, progressive or doing something they've never seen before. There's a lot of professors. That's funny. A professor popped up right as I said that. Senior fellow, Hoover Institution. Minister of Foreign Affairs for UKR. Look at that. Kuleba Dimitro, Ministry of Foreign Affairs for UKR. Actually, that's kind of an interesting one. How many people do you think from UKR are there this year? Probably that's like the one. Isn't it funny? This whole world event is circling UKR. There's one person, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That's it. I don't see anybody else on there. No joke. For how important UKR and the whole all of NATO circling around it, there's one person there. That seems a little strange. Just saying. Lots of ministers of foreign affairs. Minister for Public Accounts, France. Minister for Transport, France.
Stacy was there. The author.
Which? Whoa! Which one?
I'm joking. It's the very first person. No, the very first person. Did you see that one?
Oh my gosh, you freaked me out there.
That's all she is an author, because she's not won an office that she's run for yet. But
I thought you were saying that the author of that of Utopia or something was there. That would freak me out.
This name I just sort of rolled my eyes at. The other names I'm very curious about, especially the ones with interesting roles. But that one I just, come on.
Well, I wonder what that is. And I bet
she didn't win it here, so.
Yeah. Well, the alphabetical in alphabetical order, she definitely won. Xeno Partners, member of House. There's a lot of interesting names here, like there is every year. Oh, Eric Schmidt. Look at that. Former former CEO and chair, Schallenberg. These are the people running the world, people. Jens Stoltenberg, Secretary General, NATO. They have several folks from NATO, but they only have one person from UKR. It's kind of telling, isn't it? All right, and then we're going to go to Kevin. Kevin is our next caller. And while you get Kevin into the system, guys, make sure to go over and check out the EMP Shield. This is a device that can protect your cars from an EMP. It can also protect you against a CME. If we have a solar event, as far as a coronal mass ejection, a Carrington level event, this will keep your cars, your trucks, your ATVs, your motorcycles, your boats running when no one else's are. After the multiple EMPs, your car will be able to ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry whatever this is wired into. So go check it out. There's, of course, tons of different versions made for pretty much anything you want to keep running. This is the same company that agencies like DHS, DOD have been using. And, of course, now they're on the DEMSO team officially helping protect the Texas grid. There's tons of different ways that you can protect your stuff. This is one of the best and one of the most reliable ways. There's a home version. Once you have it wired in, it will protect in 250 linear feet from where it is wired in, everything that is plugged in. So that's kind of a cure-all for most homes because 250 linear feet, that covers most homes as far as what is plugged in. So make sure to go check it out. They have all sorts of great stuff, and they make the micro. The micro is now, it is so small compared to the regular. It can fit almost everywhere, and it has the same protection. So that is at marfooglenews.com/EMP. When you go through us, you're going to get $50 off per device, and that stacks on top of sales. So again, you can really, really come away spending a whole lot less when you use our code, and you help our channel at the same time. This is something that I believe will, in either event, if a massive EMP or a CME hit, this will save lives. So it's definitely something that people should be looking into. The more of us that are protected, the more of the country will keep running when nobody else is. All right, and then let's get Kevin in. Kevin, you are live on Marfoogle News. What is going on?
Oh, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. So, I guess what's the subject today? Inflation in the dollar. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. The inflation's blowing up. I just want everybody to remember, that they printed a whole lot of money, more money than has ever been printed in any point in time in history a few years ago. And really, everybody thinks the prices of everything is going up, but really, that dollar is just becoming worth less and less every day.
Now, sir, before you go any further, I know exactly what you're saying. I just wanted to make sure there's no sleeve or something over the phone mic. Just want to make sure that we're doing the best we can so everybody can hear you.
No, it should be fine. Am I good here now?
It's a little bit better. Yeah, it just sounds a little muffled.
I'm sorry. It's an old phone that I'm talking on. Maybe I need to talk a little bit louder, I guess.
No, that's perfect now. It's totally clear, like something got moved. Anyways,
okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, yes. So back to what you were saying. They printed more money than in all of history.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In 2020, they printed more money than 2020, due to COVID and all that. But the cheapest or whatever. But they printed all this money, and then it's time to rein it back in. There's more money in the world now than there ever has been, and the dollar has went down in value. At this rate, they're talking about printing that $1 trillion coin, So at this rate, we look like we're on a trail to Venezuela.
Well, even the fact that the fact that they're seriously talking about $1 trillion coin, it just makes us look like a clowns. Like it's almost funny.
It's funny, but then on the same note, it really isn't because towards the end of that V country's other crash that I was just speaking of, there was people pushing wheelbarrows of money in the street that was literally worth less than the paper it's printed on, and if the world ditches us at the petrodollar, which is a very high probability with the BRICS thing that's going on, if the world ditches us, we're in some serious trouble, and people don't realize it.
Well, I think most of us do. The thing is people need to share this with their friends and family, because this is something that people need to know is happening. As far as
Right.
hyperinflation, we've been talking about it for now a couple of years. Why do you think when Jack Dorsey says hyperinflation is coming soon, I don't think he's just, he could just be really, really high or something, but I don't think so. I think he knows enough people that he's got some heads up on this.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that 100%. I mean, and all the signs are clear to all of us that can see, but I guess my thing is there's people that can see, and then they still ignore it like it ain't happening. That just confuses me.
It's more of the stress level. People want to avoid it because it stresses them out, and we have a natural tendency to just block it out.
Right, and I understand that, but I'm an average person just like every other average Joe out there. I bust to work 60 hours a week to provide for me and my family, and it's becoming harder and harder to just keep up, and it's crazy. You go to what used to cost $20, $30, $40 at the grocery store, you're dropping $180 on now, and it's just insane.
Yeah, it is so hard to get out of a grocery store. Here in Washington, it's especially bad, where milk is like $8. It's incredible. It's like everything is expensive. It's really hard to get out the door for less than $100, and that's just getting like the bare essentials, like bread, milk, cheese. I mean, literally.
Yeah, that's not expending on anything. You might forget to get your sugar or your Kool-Aid because you just can't afford it.
Well, they've got us drinking a different kind of Kool-Aid now.
Oh yeah, they got that special stuff,
Yeah, it's probably got
and with what they're doing with the throwing in the I don't know what I can say here and what I can't, but what they're doing with recent fix to the problem that they created in 2020. Now they're talking about growing that fix in with the foods, and now they're doing the altered pork that they're selling, and it just, to me, it's so crazy that it's everything, everywhere, all at once. It's not just one thing that's going on right now. It's literally the world's going crazy. I never thought in my lifetime that I would ever see this level of insanity with people still trying to pretend like everything's okay.
Well, I think that they somewhat trained people, because after CV and everything that happened and they locked us down, we're just so happy to be out and about. And it's like when they sent us to time out, and then put us there for 4 or 5 months, when they let you out, I guess maybe a lot of people are probably more accepting of some of the stuff they're doing. They're like, well, at least we're not standing 6 feet apart.
I'm in Central Ohio, and I see this every day. I work in a very, very, very popular Greek restaurant in the area that I'm from. I'm there 60 hours a week, like I said, 50, 60 hours a week. And, the level of people, they're still, I would say, and this is crazy to hear, but there's still probably 15 to 20% of people that walk in that front door that think they still have to have a face mask on, and I don't understand it. At this part in the game, I don't understand how they're still doing it.
And you said Ohio? Is that Ohio? I'm surprised.
Central Ohio. It's in Richland County. Is the area that I'm from. That's just north of Columbus, a couple counties north of Columbus.
I'm just surprised. I see a lot of people here, but it's Seattle. So Seattle, we were one of the example states. Whatever they did here, they kind of rolled out everywhere. They went the most strict on us, whereas people would travel from here. My aunt and uncle during CV went to Florida, and it was like they couldn't believe it. Nobody was doing anything. It was a whole 180 from what we were doing here. One thing I think people got used to, though, And this was really bad for our culture and for our self-confidence and everything else, is people liked their face covered. They didn't like people seeing it. They felt protected. You do feel like you're not, like that people can't see you. It's just like in Halloween, you can be a goofball because nobody can see your face.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But now it's gotten to the point where, they normalize that. And now the people that's wearing it, you got a 65% chance that the person wearing it's a criminal. They're getting ready to do something crazy too,
Yeah,
so that's their cover anymore.
I always thought about that as like people in the banks were wearing masks and in convenience stores. It's like, but that's, what's crazy though, is then when that happens, they go, oh, well, during that time, they started talking about how they needed facial recognition that could spot a person and be accurate just by seeing their eyes. And this was done all over the world. They said, we need facial so it won't matter if you're covered up. You think you're anonymous, but now they're building these systems based off of they got us to all get addicted to social media, do Facebook years and years ago. Everybody's uploading everything. And apps like TikTok and Snapchat, they literally map your face. And that's part of the gimmick to do these stupid tricks.
Yep.
But they're also not telling you that they're using that to literally make a profile. Even if you put sunglasses on, do whatever, grow a beard, gain 50 pounds, they know it's you. And then, of course,
they want to get so accurate with that they can tell by looking at your face the exact mood that you're in or exactly what you're feeling at that point in time. They want to be able to identify certain traits in people. And to me, it's just crazy that it's
Minority Report. It's straight out of Minority Report. Yep. And they're doing a Japanese company did a facial recognition thing that it's already being put out in cameras in, I want to say, businesses are testing this and using this, where it's a surveillance system, say for a mini mart, that will watch people, and it is like 99% accurate or 95% accurate picking out thieves. So what it does is it looks at their body temperature, their body language, if they're fidgety, how much they look over their shoulder, everything. And they're able to tell a shoplifter from a non-shoplifter. That is so absolutely alarming. It's creepy, and this is happening.
That just tells you how far the technology went. The technology has just went to where it's crazy, where they can do all these things with it. And to me, it's just insane that they've gotten this far with it in this sort of a period of time. Or maybe they've been this far with it, but we're just now learning of it, too. That's a possibility as well.
Well, everything's more public. Walmarts are corralling people. Now there's gates at Walmart where they automatically open, and then they corral you through an area where you're on a huge facial recognition system. And then when you go and check out, they actually watch exactly what you buy. As you scan it, they videotape you. Every single point from when you leave your house to where you go somewhere, you are on video. And what's crazy is those traffic cameras that are videotaping you and tracking you everywhere. If you get in an actual car accident, good luck trying to get that footage. And even if you're not at fault, somebody rear ends you. Half of those, they'll go, oh, it's just for traffic. You can't actually get access to it.
Yeah.
They don't want us knowing that they're watching
unless they're using it for their needs.
Yep, exactly.
Right. And my county where I live, they just recently, and they bragged about it in the local newspaper, but they just put 50 what they want to call identifying cameras, and they're supposed to be like what they call license plate cameras, but they could do so much more with them. They can zoom in on you. They can see the color of your eyes. They can zoom in on your car and see what's in your back seat. Those things they're so advanced, and now the ones that they're setting up around here, they're set up with little solar panels on top of them, so they're not even hooked up to any electricity at all. And they're using that. They actually, with the area that I'm in, is a little rough. There's been some crazy things that's happened around. There's been 4 murders here in the town that I'm in, and since the beginning of this year. And they're getting to the point where they're tracking cars from the time they come into the county till the time they leave.
Well, yeah,
and everywhere they go.
By the way, Kevin, we're way over time, but you also have to look into the purple light. There's special cameras now, and everybody was wondering about the purple street lights. Well, there may be another theory. Dex and I were looking at this. Dex found a special camera that can zoom in like 100 times further at pitch black night. If the purple light, that spectrum, this camera can essentially see so much more detail. It can basically see in 4K detail, whereas most security cameras from that distance just can't see anything. With that purple light spectrum,
they can see it, but they can't pick up the detail.
Yes, but with the purple ultraviolet light spectrum, which now, if you haven't noticed, it just happens to be at all of the freeway entrances and exits. And they're saying, "Oh no, those are actually broken. We'll fix that." It's obvious that they're testing out stuff, and they don't want people to know. Just like they were in New York, where they tested out those panels of 80 cameras for facial recognition and hid them in artistic poles and said, "Oh yeah, it only cost us $1 billion for that light fixture, but don't worry, it's nothing."
Right.
Everybody knew it was a test.
Well, and the thing is, there's multiple things attached to it. They say that Koof fix that they had out there is able to be seen under that kind of black light inside your veins. So that's also a theory that's out there. And I don't, you don't know what to believe, you don't know what not to believe, but there's a lot of people that came out and said that, and there's been people that use black lights close to the side of where they punch in the nose or whatever, but they say that you can see it with that light.
I know. I've heard all of the different theories. I do believe that there's probably going to be something like a microelectronic, and that's why DHS is looking for a device that can look for counterfeit microelectronics, and then in the future that will be used. It's kind of like the mark. But again, I think the most likely, as far as if there is this other technology and they're using it, I think it's more likely the other way, just because they want to surveil us so closely. But who knows? Anything could be possible now. I won't be surprised by anything. Well, Kevin, we're way over time, but I appreciate your call. I usually don't. You kept me going because you're talking about what I like to talk about. So thank you so much.
Well, that's good, man. I've been listening to you. Listen, I told this to Dex when I called in, and I just want you to hear this myself and all the people that's listening. I've been listening to you for almost 3 years. I really, really, like, out of everything and every YouTube channel out there, I really appreciate the way that you handle your call-in shows, because you're so respectful to people that call in. Everybody has respect on you. It's like a family. And I've been listening to you for, like I said, I've been subscribed for more than 3 years. And I just want to say thank you. Every bit of effort that you put into what you're doing is very visible to people like me. I see it clear as day, and it's very well appreciated is all I want to say.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and I appreciate you too, and thank you for sticking around for that long. That's really, really incredible. Well, Kevin, you have a blessed day.
Thank you too. I appreciate you.
All right, bye, Kevin, and don't be a stranger. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was Kevin from Ohio. I'm surprised that Ohio is still wearing them, or a lot of people are wearing them. Here it is, but the area I live in is, everybody. It is so funny how that went, when nobody was wearing them to people are wearing them to nobody was wearing them. It's just in the very beginning, before it was required, when it was volunteer, when it was this, people went back and forth, and then once it was required, everybody. It was overnight. It was so weird. We lived through some of the weirdest stuff. I don't think our kids or the next generations, they're really going to understand, unless it happens again. I hope it doesn't. State Department promises to punish North Korea if illicit satellite is launched. This is super, super weird. I guess if you have a theory on this, just sounds like something that's not a usual thing. Now, hold on. I do want to... Dex, did you want to pop in? I don't know if you wanted to pop in on this. You had some comments about the satellites earlier, as far as, like, this is something that we don't really see. It's definitely something that is quite odd, to say the least.
Yeah, so I did some more research since we last talked about it, and apparently there's so what's happening is the State Department is making a statement, which we get all sorts of statements about NK from all different types of leaderships, but specifically going after them about the spy satellite that they've been talking about launching. Now, up until now, we've all just talked about the ballistics and the potential for nuke testing and things like that everybody's been concerned about, and now all of a sudden they're basically laying down the hammer, so to speak, saying you can't launch this spy satellite. And now the reason why they're making that speculation is because the technology that they're going to be using to launch it with a space launch vehicle is something they're actually banned from using. They're not allowed to use that according to the UN and some other, there's a handful of different restrictions that are on them, and they're planning on using that type of technology. Now, I don't know the intricate details of what components they are allowed to use and not allowed to use, or if it's just a generalized statement that they shouldn't be doing this. Obviously, we've talked about how they have in the past, before some of these sanctions were put on them, done things like launch a FOBS system, which is also a space launch where you go up, and I believe the trajectory is to launch, go around the south, and come up across South America towards America. And it would look like a satellite launch. It would look like a space launch, and it would be coming in a pattern that is not something that we normally detect when we're trying to detect ICBMs, because we're all looking to the north across the Arctic and to the east and west looking for missiles to come in that way. Our defenses aren't as strong looking south because we've not really had that as a threat. So it could be a partially part of that, is what that's just my opinion. And I think it might be something to the fact that we know they've used FOBs in the past. We do know they have a couple of satellites that are already up from that. And a lot of people have speculated that they potentially have an EMP technology up there, or maybe this is the one they're trying to put up. We don't know. Obviously, with the State Department coming down on them and making a statement like, they're going to punish them if they actually do this launch. I think they're looking at this a little bit more seriously than them just putting a camera on a device and floating around in space taking pictures of the Earth. They probably think it's a little bit more than that, and they're probably leveraging technology that they don't want them to have experience with and have a lot of testing to actually conduct.
Yeah, and I just wonder. I didn't know that about the whole, if they're not allowed to do it. But who do you think they're dealing with? I mean, so I guess I foresee them trying to punish North Korea, because it's not like they're going to listen. I mean, do you think that they're going to listen if we say don't launch a spy satellite?
Yeah, they're not allowed to do all the other things that they do, and they do it, right?
Yeah, everything that they do is something they're not supposed to do. And then satellite images shows a WZ-8 supersonic drone at a Chinese base. Now, a satellite image obtained by Defense News shows what appears to be a WZ-8, WZ-8, supersonic reconnaissance drone parked outside one of the two newly built hangars in China's Luan Air Base. China is continuing to revamp a bomber base that was identified in recent leaked U.S. documents as hosting a new supersonic reconnaissance drone. The satellite image provided by Defense News by Planet Labs shows Luan Air Base in China's Anhui province. The previously unoccupied base is undergoing an upgrade, with construction beginning sometime between April 2018 and early 2019. Improvements include resurfacing of the 3,200-meter runway, the widening of taxiways, and the construction of 20 bomber-sized aircraft shelters and 2 hangars to replace open aircraft parking bays. China has also built munitions checkout facilities on base, according to Decker Evlith, a student at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey, who reviewed the satellite photo given to Defense News. These buildings are usually found at bases for bombers and ground-launched missiles, Evelith added, and tend to be long, tall buildings with doors at both ends, with missiles usually fixed to a rail for inspection at various stations and examining the various components. So this thing, look at this. Now, Dex, this has got to be a different one. This isn't the, this is probably, wait, it did say.
Yeah, that's a picture of it. I don't think that's the
No,
satellite.
no,
image.
okay. But, no, and in my head, I was thinking picture from a drone. But these are the supersonic drones. It looks a whole lot like the U.S. versions. Yeah. I mean, these are no paper airplane. These are drones that could take some stuff out. These are, and by the way, they also had that event where they had a supersonic object then launch a second supersonic object, or hypersonic. Supersonic and hypersonic. I think hypersonic is how much more. But I'm wondering if this is one of the things that would be launched off of another, other kind of vehicle, and be flown by itself.
Yeah, these are obviously looking very stealth, obviously looking similar to technology. I'm sure, they learned it from us if they didn't outright steal it from us. And yes, you're correct. Supersonic is faster than the speed of sound. Hypersonic is 5 times faster than supersonic, or than the speed of sound.
I wonder if you get up to like 20 times, if they have another name for that, like super duper sonic. Supersonic. You have to say it like that too, because that's part of the pronunciation. It comes from a France and Latin word. Super duper. Sorry.
It's technically high hypersonic. That would be 10 to 25.
High
hypersonic.
High. Wait, are you saying high supersonic?
No, high hypersonic. It goes supersonic, which is over the speed of sound, basically Mach 1.2 to 5. Hypersonic is 5 times the speed of sound, all the way up to 10 times. And then high hypersonic is 10 to 25 times Mach, or Mach 10, Mach 25.
You're saying a high sonic. High
hyper.
Oh, high hypersonic. That doesn't roll off your tongue. Wait a second. In one of these images, okay, that's on a different truck. Okay, that is definitely an angle thing. If you just briefly looked at this, it looked like the supersonic drone on this has another drone on its back, but that's a different kind of drone. Obviously, that's more of a surveillance drone. It's got a camera on the front, and it has, of course, some sort of radar or receptor for how far. Oh my gosh! Look at this tower with cameras here. And I know this is China, but look at this. Do you want this country ruling you? Do you want to live in that country? Just look at that tower. That has more arms than Garo. And then Russia fires 30 cruise missiles at UKR targets. This is the largest strike in the conflict so far, I believe. And they're saying they hit all of the targets, I believe, and UKR is saying that they knocked every one of them out of the sky once again. Both sides are stating basically the opposite. Russia fired 30 cruise missiles against different parts of UKR early Thursday in the latest nighttime test of UKR air defenses, which shot down 29 of them, officials said. One person perished and 2 were wounded by a Russian missile that got through and struck an industrial building in the southern region of Odessa, according to Suhir Bratruk, a spokesman for the region's military administration. Amid the recently intensified Russian air assaults, China said that its special envoy would meet with UKR President Volodymyr Zelensky during talks in Kiev early this week with UKR's chief diplomat. Do you see how this is slowly being set up for China to come in and rescue everybody or to stop this conflict somehow? It seems like it for me. If this doesn't go to World War III, and China somehow promotes a peace plan and it works, I think we lost World War III without a shot fired. That's what I think. If their peace plan ends up ending the stuff eventually in the next 6 months, year, whatever, if it just all of a sudden, China's peace plan worked, then I think World War III is over and we lost. That's what I think. And it goes deeper than that. Dex, go ahead.
What I want to know is, how is that envoy going to travel there? Are they going to fly in? Or are they going to take a train from Poland or from Russia? And if it's from Russia, it might be pretty dangerous since they all seem to keep derailing.
I think, and somebody said, yes, sir. It's like we surrender. It wouldn't be the U.S. surrendering to them. It would be like they set up the narrative. Now China's coming in. This is part of the whole image of being the world leaders, right? Of being number one in the world. Actively, the U.S., its reputation is going down the toilet. And I'm not saying that to not be patriotic or to be unpatriotic. I'm saying that to be realist. And that I'm very sad that people are hurting the reputation of the country I was born in. And it's being done on purpose. There are so many people that took a paycheck over pride that were being destroyed. Our entire system is getting broken from the inside. They're dividing us. All this cultural change stuff, in my opinion, almost all of it is being pushed from outside in countries that would never have it in their own country. They're pushing these huge pushes. And it's so over the top. It's like most of the things they're pushing, not bad inherently on their own, but to push it down people's throats. Basically, if you try to push every single person into the opposite direction of where they are morally okay with, then people start snapping. People start going nuts. People start fighting. People start civil conflicts. When you push somebody on the unmovables, like things that they just will never change their mind on, and then start making it laws and things like where now it's against the law for you to do this. That's where people get so divided, things start breaking. The same countries that are pushing this never have it in theirs, and they would never come close. When you do this, you are breaking a country down to take it over. And what I mean, like, if this starts working and you start seeing this and the position of China starts in the media and everywhere else basically starts putting them on a pedestal, and we just continue to keep getting knocked down to third place or silver or bronze, that's when you're going to start seeing also your rights, that us as number one and in Europe and all these places that are allies, that's where our rights start going down to bronze. And then to whatever is 80th on the elements table. Beijing's peace proposal has yet yielded no apparent breakthrough in the conflict, and Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wei Wenbin on Thursday said that the warring parties needed to accumulate mutual trust for progress to be made. So we know that's impossible, because Russia is telling the truth that he thinks that they are run by basically somebody's up there, and the other guy is war, F-16, fifth generation, nuclear devices, 60,000 tons of ammonium nitrate. Just kidding. More Bud Light. High heels for my next commercial. Okay, moving on. It just seems like it's being set up. And we have Siggy. Dex, do you want to bring in Siggy? First time caller. And then Siggy, while you get in there, make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/prep. This is freeze-dried food in packages that you can afford. Again, the 3-month supply right now, it still has $200 worth of free gadgets, goodies, and extras that go along with this. So you get a $200 value of an extra pack. You actually get a heater that comes with this. You get a 4-in-1 radio, flashlight, all sorts of other little gadgets as well. And again, you'll have to look at what the current package is because they've altered it and changed it several times. But now you get $200 worth of free stuff. So make sure to use our code. Otherwise, you'll just be missing out on free stuff. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. I would also look into getting something like an Alexa Pure Pro if you do want something that can filter a whole lot of water in a short amount of time. These are great for an actual SHTF situation. You will need something that filters a lot of water all at once. The food, again, you can get other than a 3-month supply. You can actually get any kind of denomination of meals. Some folks get a little bit at a time, but the best way to do it is bulk. When you get bulk, not only are you going to save money, but you are also going to save space. It is all packaged in Mylar bags. They take every ounce of water out of it, every molecule, and then in 25 years from now, you could add the water back in, cook it, and it's almost like as if the day it was packaged. That is what's great about freeze-dried food. It lasts 25 plus years, and again, it is very expensive process to do, and now it's getting even more expensive. Freeze-dry machines are actually going up and up and up. So again, the price of this has tripled in the last 3 years. In general, freeze-dried food has tripled. So if you do get this now, say in 3 more years from now, if it has tripled again, you won't have to purchase it then, and you'll still have 22 years left on the shelf. Essentially, it's a thing that it's better to get yesterday rather than tomorrow. marfooglenews.com/prep. You're helping support an independent channel, you're getting a discount, and you're getting something that you can hold and its actual value that you can count on, and something that will possibly save your life. Doesn't have to be the end of the world. It can be a disaster, earthquake, hurricane, any number of things. You can also get it as a present for a family member that is in the crosshairs of one of those disasters. All right, and then Dex, do we have Siggy?
Yes, we do.
Siggy, you're live on Marfoogle News.
Hey, Adam, can you hear me all right?
I can. What's going on, Siggy? Facial recognition and tabletop exercises. Calling from Michigan. Siggy, go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to I've heard facial rec be brought up a couple of times here recently, and I just kind of wanted to speak a little bit about because it's one of those topics where it can be a little fear-mongering in the sense of you don't really know what's out there, plus at the same time it is a developing technology that has gotten far more advanced in the last decade. I've seen personally, so it's one of those things I'd like to just sort of maybe hopefully educate the fam a little bit on, especially at wherever they live, maybe feel a little bit better about, maybe feel a little bit worse depending, and then also the exercises, that sort of thing, kind of explain what that looks like, and what the purview of that is depending on what they're practicing for.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, for facial rec, camera technology has generally gotten incredible. When you're in like a major urban population in a big city or a mid-sized city in the United States, there are going to be private companies, and then there's going to be government entities that will have their own camera networks set up, and a lot of times those will be integrated. A lot of times different technologies work within those integrated camera networks. So you'll have something like a facial rec that might be able to be shared between different groups. There's also certain companies, like certain retailers, maybe out in your neck of the woods, that have their own version of it that private companies or anybody can use for image recognition and facial recognition stuff if you have a stored catalog of faces. The way it works at the big level is, you get your image taken for IDs and certain things like that. The way it would work at a smaller level is maybe somebody finds an image of you from your social media, and you've drawn the attention of a company or something like that from something you've said or some sort of complaint you've made. All of those things can go into a system where that face can be recognized. In major cities, this is already active. It works the same way for like an unattended bag, with the assumption that might be something. It'll notice something that's sitting there for a while, that kind of thing. I'm sure you've touched on it before. It works the same way that you've seen it work in Asia, where they've been able to pick out people in the crowd. That all that technology is pretty much here. It just sort of depends on what the local budget is or how much interest bigger pieces of the government would have in actually backing the money to set up those systems in places if they feel like they're a higher sort of like a critical infrastructure target type deal. So if you're in a smaller place, you're not in a bigger city, that sort of thing, you don't really have to worry about too much your local LE and some of your smaller towns and all that stuff having this. You'd have to worry about it only from like what you do online, that sort of thing. But in major cities, just understand like when you're moving around and all that, it's, I mean, depending on the network that cities have, they'll have camera network systems that are set up to track people for miles. I mean, and that's what your cell phone's doing too. When you're moving around, you're hitting into networks. It's used in investigations into all kinds of terrible crimes that are of the violent type. I mean, every investigation and all that local or county or federal LE would use, like they're going to be looking at the pinging of the cell phone off the towers. They're going to be looking at the cameras at gas stations, that kind of thing. Highway networks, whatever your local state transportation authority is, they're going to have all of those, bus stops, all that kind of stuff. It's always going to have these camera networks. So you're really living in a CCTV kind of world. But depending on where you are, it's all dependent on the money and how much they put into their systems and all that stuff, and the units and the people that deal with that and support that at all levels. Kind of depends on how robust it is. Really.
But don't you
so if you're in
think
like a major city, just expect.
Don't you think AI would reduce the cost of that though? And now that they're the local LE is kind of adding these systems in and even offering incentives for homeowners and small business owners to put these facial recognition systems in. And then what if they, in the next couple of years, make this something standard that you might not see in the fine print of every Ring doorbell cam? That's like patent, and they're possibly putting this. We would set up the network for them. Think about that. They wouldn't need money if we ended up putting them all over our own houses, and we would make the network for them. They would have a double win at that point.
Yeah, you do that. You do that already. You've been doing that for the better part of a decade. So that's the scary thing is like there's no real way to get off the grid. I mean, you can get off the grid, whatever that means now. But if you have any real stake in the game in terms of your daily life and work and all that sort of thing, and you're not just living in the woods, living off of what you can cut for firewood, you're kind of already integrated in that system. The AI, unfortunately, takes that to a completely different level. Because what I can say is there are companies out there that have been able to capitalize on the AI potential when it comes to integrating the free flow of access from some of these websites and some of these databases, which is it's like an API fire hose, if anybody's familiar with that. You get open access to it, they can do all these things. There's certain companies in the past who have gotten in trouble for that. I won't name them, but there was 2018, 2019, there's a big thing about it for monitoring services. All of that stuff already exists. It's just getting more and more robust. So you're right. And the only thing with the fear mongering and all that, I'm trying to maybe dissuade some people about being too scared about it, is it's not going to be developed. It's still human beings that are making decisions. Like the decision makers are still human beings, and not all of them use the technology correctly or know how to like really efficiently use the technology or make it the most robust. But yeah, the AI is a dangerous aspect of it, because in time that'll replace all of the human elements that sort of were pitfalls before. So
but that's what we're all saying in this niche. We're not so much worried about where it is now, is where it is going and where we see it going. Mm-hmm. So in a way, I don't feel that it's fear mongering saying where realistically it is going, because if you see how it's progressed in just in the 3 years I have followed, specifically since the patents were filed for like Ring, I have followed every story regarding this, and AI in just the last year. Look at where AI has gone in a year. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be too long where it does get to the point where people should be fear mongering. By then, people won't even know because it's already in place and everything else. So I think I guess my thing is get the word out before it happens, not after. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. And that's why I'm saying the other side of it's worse, because it's an inevitability at this point in time.
Yeah.
And that's not a give up statement. It's just do your research in terms of how to kind of remove yourself online. Be smart about everything you do. I like this channel for the prepping nature of things. I think it's smart. I think there's stuff coming down that's sort of just inevitable, and it'll be hard times, no matter what they look like. It'll be the tribulation sort of thing. It's going to be hard times. And the networks that they set up, I mean, there's abuse of power and access to information at almost every level. It's not something that you could ever find out from the fine print and all of that. The way that the way that everything is kind of set up is that they all follow a similar model, and it all comes from sort of having like a command point, a global security operations center, or a command center, that sort of thing. Private companies will have that. Government will have that. It's like a fusion centers, that sort of thing. So it's like there's all those networks are already integrated. The thing is, it's going to make it more robust. The technology is super expensive to bring the AI element into it right now, and it's not perfected. So the only places that are really able to play around with the scary 1984 kind of stuff are bigger cities. But at the same time, that's getting better because of federal oversight on that sort of thing, or federal moving in, for important points, and helping to supplement in there where they can't afford those certain things. But let me tell you, they're not looking. Not a lot of it is derived to like do good things, like helping from violent crime, or from helping like, how do we make this area safer? There's a lot of like safe city initiatives, or it's like, add lights to places, or broken windows policy, that sort of thing. That's old school.
Like spot potholes.
A lot of it's moving to what the money.
Like if if the recognition could spot potholes and then automatically tell the government, hey, there's a pothole that needs to be fixed, nobody would have to call it in. Or if a broken window on a government building, go fix it, right?
Or solve like any, I'm going to try to say this without using words, but like any street conflict that might happen out there with anybody experiencing being a victim of violent crime. Like it'd be really nice if they were able to, if the technology was good enough to be able to help them out. And in certain places, it really will. But it's still in LE territory. That's one of those things where they're working on the community being responsive to giving them information and all that. Like they've limited, just a small example from LE work. They've limited what you used to be able to do. Like you've seen like Law and Order, stuff like that. Like they'll give a picture, or they have people stand in a line and be like, oh, which one of them was the mugger, kind of a thing. They make legal limitations on that at state levels now. Since it's digital, they usually give somebody a book of pictures, like a literal book with the F at the front and E at the end, that you put in front of the victim, and they look. Well, now it's digital, so now it's they used to be called 12 packs, and then there would be like a 6-pack. That just means how many pictures. And those pictures have to be like similar to the perp, or the person you're looking for. There's all these limitations on what you can put into them to make sure that they're not that it follows these regulations and guidelines and stuff. And the facial rec works similarly. Like depending on the state and all that, it'll be limited to like who it can match to for various reasons of, I guess you could say, like cultural offense or different things like that. And I mean, playing around with it, like it's not perfect. It's like initially I could say a few years ago, like it's not what you expect from Minority Report, or something like that. Like it's a little bit, but it's beta, like the whole thing is in beta, and you don't want to really catch the guise of it when it's in alpha.
Now, can I ask you a quick question? So first of all, we do have to get to the second part of your call in, because we're a little bit over time,
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you, so you sound like you have some sort of background in this, or is this something that you just heavily research, or
no background.
I'm sorry, what?
I said no background.
Okay.
In the field. I mean, like it's a part of everything. I mean, it's a part of any like investigation, all these different things that anybody's doing. Like it's now just a common tool. Like it's not super special anymore.
Oh no,
it's
I
now
get you.
just
But is this something
that's a
that
part of
is this
everything.
something you know about because of personal experience? It sounds like you have some personal
Yes.
experience with this. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then the second part, the exercises, and that's the one we really got to be careful. It's less about the AI facial recognition. What about the exercises?
So can I say the TT word, like table?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So the difference between like if you're putting people out there, like you brought up the New York subway one with the how far did things go and all that kind of stuff with the fumes and all that. That's going to cost money. You're going to deploy people as training hours. It's expensive. That's going to happen when you have a really specific thing you're trying to shore up. Tabletop exercises a lot of times will turn into like regional sort of just connection and networking things. Depending on who's putting them on, it can be private or it can be a federal thing, or it can be like, there's some good tabletops. And I'm not specifically not talking about the ones that are almost like international or some of these ones that you've talked about where we get to kind of see like a little head nod to like what's going to happen. That's not the world I'm talking about. I'm talking about like your local, who you're dealing with on the federal side, the county side, the city, all that kind of stuff. Those tabletops are sometimes funny. Like they're sometimes just way overboard. There's like so many things going on. You're like, okay, at this point in time, you just bring in the active military. There's too much stuff going on. And then some of them are just silly, and some of them are serious. And a lot of times they'll be based off of stuff that's happened, and sort of like if anybody's military familiar in the fam, it's like an after action report, super important thing to do after different training exercises or different engagements and different things you've experienced as a unit. After action reports are incredibly important. Tabletops are kind of developed like that. Like a lot of times you develop a tabletop to maybe play a scenario where you might have failed in a previous event or had a stopgap that was exposed, and you wanted to shore that up, so you try to work it out. But a lot of times it's just, how impressive can people be at the table? And if it's a bunch of people who are stakeholders in the risk management side of like a city, then they're all going to try to be as impressive as they can. They're all going to try to be as involved as they can. So a lot of times it'll be like figuring out who to call, figuring out who to rely on, for certain things. Like, I need this corridor of the city checked off. Like, what's the corporation that I call?
Well, I understand a lot of that, but so a very specific one happened before the 2019 event, and that very same group of people put on this new one in almost the exact same time period on October 23rd, 2022, right before this year turned 2023. And this one shows something eerily similar to what we already had, only it's a new variant and it's one that affects your brain and all of that. The old one painted a picture that ended up being exact. I mean, it was very, very identical to what actually happened. So that's what alarmed people about it.
And that's, I mean, so everybody claims that, the big thing that happened in 2001 changed our lives, and a lot of the arguments that are made academically about that and the way that they teach it now is that, all of the alphabet soup groups out there in their big buildings in Virginia and stuff, all of them had a lack of imagination. That was the argument. It's like, they had a lack of imagination. That's how they could let this happen. You learn over the years what went on. But this is sort of the same idea of like self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. I mean, like I said, I'm not talking about the exercises that they're doing at that level. That's almost to, I can't remember the term I'm supposed to use, but that's almost to like, big group that everybody's afraid of, kind of run the whole circle planet. Like that's another level. But yeah, those conversations happen, and I think a lot of times they're ready for certain things like that because they understand and they have inside knowledge on how things are pushed, right? A lot of things is always money. They're not really that concerned with, there's acceptable losses in things. Like I would say, do you remember the plastic, like black caskets that got everybody kind of riled up years ago?
Yep.
when they were getting shipped around to different places. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's a part of the response to a mass CAS type event. And it's like, are they setting up for something? Possibly. They had, the hurricane in New Orleans. And so then they started moving these things around years later. And it's like, oh man, are they setting up for it? Well, no, it's more like the scariest thing about that is like, that's the response. Like field hospitals, and how do we deal with how many people are lost, and what is the reaction to it? Because there's not a lot of planning for how to avoid or how to not have that situation go. It's more like, oh, okay, there's an acceptable loss here, and then moving on from that, how do we make this as easy to manage beyond that? Which is why I think a lot of people get affected in those big things, because it's like, it doesn't matter how many drills and all this junk that they do, they always seem to kind of fall short because their eye's not really on the ball of like prevention. It's more about reaction. And I'm not saying to not be afraid of it. Like, it's just know that everybody's kind of human involved in all. I think sometimes we think like, oh, everybody who, is possibly running this because the world is very dangerous. It's incredibly scary. Half the, finding out how the sausage is made would make everybody not leave their house at night or during the day. But the same time, you got to remember they're all humans. Yeah, they're all people. They're just as scared and just as ignorant and all that.
Siggy, we're way over time, so I'm sorry to tell you, but my light turned yellow, so we've only got a few minutes left, and I do have a couple more articles to go over. I guess more so if I was going to ask you just to kind of package up into what I kind of feel like you're saying that it's less, that maybe we shouldn't worry about it so much. I guess my view on it is that if people don't have a match under their foot, then they don't get prepared. And if they don't get prepared, then they are really hurting. And it's much worse than if they had a basic plan.
You're going to wish the people that you think were ruining the world had a plan, and I think everybody should have a plan. And I think it's part of the reason is because it's going to be even more ridiculous than you could even imagine, because it's just human beings playing with stuff they don't know what to do with. They're ethically all over the place.
You're saying that there's idiots planning these horrible events.
I mean, it's like, yeah, but alongside, so then add AI into that equation. You know what I mean? Like add fear, add more fear, add another thing that pops out that they can take advantage of into that equation, and you've got the way the world works. Like I don't know if it's 10, I don't know if it's 300, I don't know if it's whatever at the top, but at the top, it's the same group of people thinking definitely plan A is going to work, and plan A never works. So you have to remember that, but yes, get prepared. I mean, everybody, do as much as you can to try to have a plan, keep your family safe and all of that, because it's kindergarten Mad Max out here, and everybody's taking themselves way too seriously, and they're playing with stuff that they don't have the laws to handle, and they don't have the ability to handle ethically, and not, absolute power corrupts absolutely. You have to understand. So know thyself. I mean, listen to what really moves you, and trust your instincts, trust your intuition. If something doesn't feel right, don't do it. There's going to be somebody out there that's not going to judge you for not doing something. So don't do it if it doesn't feel right, and make sure you're developing strong communities around you, have a plan, have people you trust. It's only going to get worse.
And Siggy, we have 15 seconds left. In less than 15 seconds, can you tell me, do you think World War III is coming? I know it's a little off the side, but just wanted to get it from your point of view.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yep, absolutely, 100%.
And do you think, and I'm not going to ask you what you did, from your background of whatever it may be, does that go into that decision saying that you think it's coming?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, just my general life and watching patterns and being able to analyze this stuff, yeah. But at the same time, I mean, this is just, the world is primed for it right now. Like it's time for everybody to make their big move, their big grand gesture for the future. It's the beginning of a new century.
That's right. Well, Siggy, I don't want to cut you off. We actually went way over time, but I really enjoyed your call, and I would really appreciate if you call back again. If you would love to do that, I would love to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for taking me, and everybody, hi in the Fugel fam. Have a good night. And Dex, great talking with you. Adam, great talking with you as well. And yeah, everybody enjoy your weekend.
Siggy, awesome. Thank you. Please don't be a stranger, okay? I would love more callers like you.
Yeah.
And again, thank you so much. Siggy, have a great night.
For sure. You too, Adam. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. And like, so if you have, I know that there's people out there, it's statistically impossible. If you have background in certain things and you know something, and even if it's not going exactly with the show, it doesn't have to be exactly to the articles we're talking about. If you know something about current events, if you have a job, just an example, if all this stuff is going on and you happen to analyze reports on this kind of stuff, or if you don't have to call in with secret information, you can call in with stuff that you absolutely know about, that you spend your day at work going over night and day. Give us a call and let us know. Educate us on stuff. I'm just a regular person. I don't claim to be a genius on anything. I'm not even a jack of all trades. I'm just a regular person like you guys, and I want to know the truth, and I love learning. I love learning about everything. I mean, shoot, I would do a whole show on learning how, what was it the other day? We were learning how the mechanics of how things, that submarine, like how the submarine works, that they're going to have people inside. I think that stuff is cool. And if you like it too, let me know in the comments, because I would love to do more shows, just general educational shows on stuff, and have proper guests. Also, make a suggestion down below. If you want a guest on this show, we now have, Dex and I spent hours before the show. We now have the ability to do video guests. So we have the system set up. We can now have video guests. It took months to get this thing, this monster system right. So please, let us know who should we have on, and even it doesn't have to be a big YouTuber. It could be somebody small that you go, this guy has no subscribers. We want to highlight him. He's a genius. He's a scientist. He's a geologist. Whoever it may be, put them in the comments down below. President to join fellow G7 leaders in Japan as China's aggression pushes Tokyo past pacifism. This is a main point. Go over to the website and make sure to check this article out. This backs us up, and I wish we had more time, but this backs us up on exactly what I've been saying for a long time, what Dex has been saying, that Tokyo is moving away from pacifism. They are now changing over their constitution, and they are now heavily set on militarizing their entire country. They are getting prepared for World War III. It says Japan, America's biggest ally in the region, has already committed to doubling its national defense budget. That drew praise from the U.S. and marked a major departure from more than 75 years of foreign policy. Japan's constitution was written in 1945 by American occupation authorities after WW2, specifically to ensure the country never went to war again. Isn't that crazy? It was made by American occupation authorities. I mean, like, after we nuked them, we wrote it in, or the American occupation authorities did. Article 9 of that Constitution bans Japan from settling international disputes by force. That is all changed. Dex, are we over on the other's channel now? Or
you got a couple minutes left.
Okay. So just go over to the website, make sure to go check this out, and then UKR's intelligence reacts to a railway explosion. They knocked out another railway. This is just getting crazy. Let's and by the way, I want to say thank you. There's a couple people I need to say thank you. So the overflow may go into the Marfoogle Jams channel. So make sure to just follow us over. It will do it for you if you don't want to figure anything out. Joseph Newhouse, hey man, could you do the Dr. Evil laugh for a clip? I don't know what that one is. I don't know how to do that. Much love from BC, Canada. Thank you. And Foogle fam for keeping us updated. Thank you, YV Prep. Thank you. Stephen McMahon, God bless y'all. Off to work. Have a nice weekend. Well, thank you, Stephen McMahon. Thank you for always stopping by. Carol White says, happy Friday. Hey, happy Friday. Thanks. Thank you, Carol. And Jesus finished work on the cross, saved me. Liz Potter, thank you. Saved by grace through faith, Jesus finished work on the cross. Liz Potter, thank you so much for supporting Independent. I appreciate that. And then Jessica Lancaster, we will cover that on the next show. 7.7 on the Loyalty Islands. I saw that earlier and I was looking that up. A huge earthquake. If anything, I'll do an emergency video over on news if we have anything crazier tonight. Nana of Montana, thank you. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you supporting our channel, and thank you so much for sticking around with the Marfia. And Pat W, thank you, and thank you. Be Real Beast, thank you. And then all of the new members, if you are a new member this week, tomorrow's Friday, so I'm going to be going over all of the new members. You guys are getting it in the first month of membership, so you'll all have a very unique badge going forward forever. So the first month of people that are in that are going to have the same badge, and then everybody after that will never be able to catch up to that. So I think that's pretty cool. Thank you, everybody that joined as a member. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Dex,